So I'm sure, like with all Netflix documentaries, there's going to be a bunch of a toxic love story, video think pieces, analyzing the body language of Ian and why he was a psychopath, the 6 reasons why Angela has factitious disorder, aka Munchausen, or was she malingering? But as I was watching the documentary, all I could think about was, Jesus Christ, everybody moved in with people way too soon. It reminds me of this comment that I saw, and the comment said, no one falls in love faster than a man or a woman without a place to stay. And this documentary was a great case study of how even characters like Michelle and Jason, who I'm sure people are going to find the more sympathetic characters, and had really bad discernment in early stage dating, probably due to some romantic attachment desperation. There's a reason why many psychologists suggest to wait at least a year before moving in with another person, so that you allow yourself to collect enough data about that person's patterns. What are they like with conflict, with communication? How do they handle stress? Do you have a shared vision of the future? How do they handle disagreements? Are you noticing patterns of deception? You're not going to have that information in the honeymoon phase. When it's a couple months, you're both on your best behavior, still trying to sell each other on the other person. And that's why I want to go over an article from a clinical psychologist about the 6 signs that you're maybe moving in with somebody a little too soon, and examples of each of these things from this documentary. And welcome to another episode of Avoidant Reacts to attachment related things online, in the media, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not shaming anybody, because if you have a history of having an insecure attachment style, I'm raising my hands. You probably have a horror story or two about moving in with someone too soon. Even in a platonic situation, doesn't have to be romantic, where you've moved in with somebody that you don't know that well, and then you find yourself packing up your stuff in the middle of the night because you've seen a side of that person who scares you, and you book it. The first thing that maybe you're moving in with someone too soon is you feel pressured to live together. So Jason, who I'm sure people will think is such a sympathetic character, he moved in way too soon with Angela. We have to take accountability when we make these kinds of decisions. Jason said that Angela, 2 months into them knowing each other, was saying how she was having trouble where she was living. So it makes you wonder if she was trying to plant that seed 2 months into knowing somebody, like, oh, I'm here all the time, I don't like where I live, oh, my lease is coming up, or, oh yeah, I was behind on my rent. Like, I have no idea the conversations that they were having. All I know is 2 months, and you let someone move in with you because they're having trouble where they're living. That should actually be a clue. You need to investigate something in yourself that makes you so quick and rushed to let someone immediately enmesh into your place, your life. And the article says if you're moving in together, mainly because your partner or others say you should, experts recommend taking a step back. It's natural to have a mix of emotions when it comes to moving in together. If you're feeling pressure, dread, anxiety, try to understand the source of those feelings before signing on the dotted line. Second is you're only doing it for practical or financial reasons. Real quick, guys, if you are still watching this, which you are, might as well click the like button. Seems like you're liking it, right? I think a lot of people will find themselves in this situation in their lives. It seems like this was maybe motivation for Angela with both Jason and Ian. It seems like maybe this was part of a lot of Ian's motivations when he would move in with people very quickly. We've all been there, you know? I was in a long distance relationship, and my boyfriend was living in Australia. He was getting a master's degree at this university in Australia, and I was like desperate to move to Australia. We hadn't been together that long, and we discussed that I'll just pack my bags and move in with him. I landed in Australia and I just moved right in with my ex, and I moved out after a month because we moved in together way too soon. But financially, it just made sense for both of us, and it really helped me in the beginning, but it was a really, really immature, dumb decision. We clashed a lot. He was a bit too possessive. I was a bit too like needing my freedom, and we just kept clashing, and it was causing a lot of arguments. Our relationship improved after we had a breakup. I moved out, and then we eventually got back together, and it was so much better. But you see in this documentary how people can move in with someone too soon who has bad or manipulative intentions. They are clearly using somebody else financially to get ahead in life or feel a sense of security. And then you can find yourself in a situation like Michelle, where you ignore your own boundaries and your own needs and your own standards. You move in with somebody, you sign on the dotted line, and then when you have to leave, unlike in my situation where I move out after a month, Michelle's kind of like stuck with Ian as a result of signing on that dotted line. And so the article says, if you're signing a lease with your partner purely for practical reasons without considering the emotional impact, experts say it's probably too soon to move. Third is you're moving in to save the relationship. Real quick, guys, if you want to support this channel or embrace the Leo Zodiac season that's all about clarity and taking courageous ownership of your life, check out on my website. ZODIAC candles, which I have on my website, are a great way to fill your home with that energy of self-awareness. Practice that Leo spirit of reinvigorating your life by being present with your own identity, your own goals and objectives. And these candles that celebrate your identity, whether scented or unscented, will help fill your day with comforting positivity. And there's other goodies that celebrate your attachment story: shirts, mugs, t-shirts. So you're moving in to save the relationship. The article says in 99% of cases, moving in together should not be considered or used as a solution to problems in the relationship. For example, if you're arguing a lot or struggling to align your hectic work schedules, living together won't necessarily solve everything overnight. I don't think there was any concrete example of this in the documentary, but I do think that there's a telltale sign that trying to keep someone happy, trying to resolve conflict by just going along with things. I think there was a sign of that with Michelle and Ian. I think when she shares that story about Ian's sexual fantasy and she talks about betraying herself, I can imagine that there were numerous patterns of her betraying herself in their relationship. And something I found particularly interesting, when she's retelling the story, she starts by saying, early in the relationship, Ian calls me when she was at work to talk to me and says, hey, I have this fantasy. Which means early in the relationship, he was asking things of her that she wasn't comfortable with early in the relationship. The investigator says this as well. He says, hearing from Michelle that Ian was pressuring her very early in the relationship to sleep with another man. So he was saying early in the relationship as well. You know, someone who is secure in their sense of self and their boundaries and what they will and won't accept, if they're early in a relationship and they get a call like that from a guy like Ian, they're just going to say no. And if it happens a few more times, they're just going to be like, this isn't the relationship for me, which shows that there had to have been a pattern of her doing what she could to keep Ian happy, to keep the relationship working and trucking along. If you're finding that you have that pattern in a relationship, you might feel like moving in with somebody is another thing that's going to fix a relationship where you feel like you constantly have to betray your own standards, your own sense of self in order to keep that other person, in order to preserve the relationship's lifespan. 4 is you're unable to resolve conflicts and disagreements. I think this shows up again in Michelle and Ian's dynamic. It seems like with Michelle, she would equate losing disagreements with, okay, I need to just give him what he wants. I need to completely abandon myself. Early in the relationship, she was not comfortable with things that he wanted her to do. And instead of like really putting her foot down or being like, no, I'm not doing that, her idea of wrapping up those conflicting views on desire and sexual gratification was to cater to him, to give him what he wants. He wants her to dress a certain way. He wants her to change her look. She'll change it for him. You know, that's someone who's unable to really just have a disagreement, have a conflict, like stand your ground in terms of your boundaries for yourself, what you're not willing to do. Like you're so deathly afraid of conflict and how that could lead to abandonment or rejection, that you'd rather just either avoid it altogether or completely like fork over all of your boundaries and your needs. I don't love that word, but your needs and what's important to you, and just let the other person always have their way. And so it seems like that was a massive part of Michelle and Ian's dynamic together. Fifth thing is you don't trust each other. And we see that obviously this Ian guy had massive trust issues, was surveilling his partners, putting cameras in the home. And a lot of times when someone has very dominant behaviors like that, they're in a rush to move in with someone. They're in a rush to survey them. They're going to these extreme, very psychopath pattern lengths to control somebody else. It's coming from this need to feel like I have to remove the fear of being able to trust somebody by completely controlling somebody. Then if they don't have their own identity, if they don't exist outside of me, I don't have to deal with any trust issues. I don't have to deal with any fear of losing somebody and how I need that person to fulfill my sense of self, to feel like I dominate somebody, like I'm so freaking important. We definitely saw this with Jason and Angela, where she moves in pretty quickly. He realizes that she's faking cancer. Yikes. And again, I would bet $1 million that before the faking cancer of it all, I bet $1 million that there were some patterns that he overlooked that showed he couldn't trust her, because he's the type of person who would move in with someone that he's only known for 2 months after they're like complaining, like, oh, I'm having problems with where I live. I'm having issues. Like, can I stay with you a few nights of the week? And then before you know it, she's moved in. When you're a person like Jason, who kind of just ignores patterns of someone who doesn't have their life together, chances are you're noticing things and you're betraying yourself by just being like, oh, maybe I can help them. Oh, maybe when they stay with me, they'll get their stuff together. Chances are, if you're saying things like this to yourself, you already don't trust this person to get their act together, or you already don't have that much faith in them. There's just going to be more things that pile on top of these things that you're already ignoring, probably due to platonic or romantic attachment desperation. 6 is there's no plan or intention about the move. It says if you haven't brought up the future with your partner, it's probably too soon for the move. For example, why do you want to move and why now? And I really think that this was present in all of the relationships. With Jason and Angela, he let her move in just because she was having problems with where she was living, but he only knew her for 2 months. That doesn't sound like two people who really have a plan. Same with Ian and Angela. It's like they knew each other for a few weeks. That's crazy. And already like she's getting pregnant, or she was lying about it, but you barely know this person. She's moved in. You guys are already bringing a baby into the picture when you're two strangers, and they obviously just didn't have any plan. Like, no plans. I guess you could argue Ian and Michelle had plans. I mean, they waited until after they were engaged. But again, with Michelle, I know people will think she's a more sympathetic character, but I just think that she made a lot of decisions not based on what she wanted, but based on what Ian wanted. And that, to me, is someone who doesn't have a plan that's based in what they intrinsically want for themselves. So it is so important that before we make these big decisions, where you see in Michelle's case, they're hard to undo, you get stuck with these dangerous people, we really have to take an inventory of why are we doing this? Do we have an actual strategy and a plan? If not, maybe pump the brakes. Let me know in the comments what you thought about all of these characters, what your theories are about certain things. Have you ever moved in with somebody too soon? And thank you for watching this. Again, please like and subscribe and check out our Zodiac candles on Avoidant Confessions. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.